Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Juan Cristales again, man. Welcome back to Duplex Build to Rent. We are now at the portion where the slab has already been poured and the cables have been tensioned. We are now at the place where we need to order the framing material for the walls. Now, this is going to be separated into a couple of phases. Actually, we're going to separate it into three phases. The first phase is going to be the framing, which is really going to be just the exterior walls. It's going to be the rooms, and it's going to just basically do the footprint, the outline of how the duplex is going to look once it's finished. Okay, that'll be the first stage. The second stage of the framing process is going to be the roof framing. The roof framing takes into consideration all the rafters, all the ceiling joists, all of that stuff. And the reason why we separate that is because it is quite a bit of work. And I'm going to show you guys here in a couple few days, these guys are able to get this framing completed. But at the same time, we have other items that if we leave out there for too long, they're going to get stolen. So we don't want things like plywood, roofing material, that kind of stuff. That stuff gets stolen very, very quickly. So the third stage of this entire framing portion is going to be the sheathing phase. On the sheathing phase, we're basically going to be putting all of the plywood on the exterior, and we're going to be putting the sheathing on the actual roof. So that's what we got going on here. So those are going to be the three phases. The first one's going to be the framing for the rooms. The second is going to be the roof framing, and then the last one is going to be the sheathing. So let's get into it here real quick. I'm going to show you guys a few pictures of where we're at. One of the things that I like to do is I asked the plumber, actually, I didn't buy it. I asked the plumber to give me a piece of 4-inch PVC. And I like to do this thing here. This is just cheap black paint and white, like primer paint. It's not a big deal. And I buy laminating sheets that you don't have to warm up. They're very sticky, right? And so you stick them together, you put the permit inside of it, and you put it on the thing. So I like to do this because I don't want the city to come by and think that I'm, doing anything crazy or shady. And so because I do this plywood with these, pieces of 2x4, we'll attach this thing here, which is a, 4-inch PVC pipe, and it has like it's like the clean out pipe and for the wastewater. And so there's a top on it that you can screw onto it. And so I put the plans on there. And I like to do that because I'm telling you, man, these guys, if you don't have a place for the plans, they get kicked around, they get rained on, they get sweated on, they get water spilled on them. So it's just a good place to like just be able to show or be able to have the plans at any given time. If there's an inspector coming to go do inspections, they want to have access to the plans anyways. So um, we have these humongous bundles of wood that have come in, and I'm going to go through some of this stuff here. Look at this here. We have these little foam things. I want to explain to you guys here in a little bit what that's all about. So all the material got there the night before. And then today, these guys were actually out there doing the framing for the walls. So on the blueprints, on the plans, it's going to show you what the separation of the 2x4s are going to be here. Now, I want you guys to understand something real quick here, is that this particular material here, these are called studs. And I've brought this up before, but I think it's important to tell you guys. So we have this ground contact, this plate. It's called a bottom plate, and this is going to be the top plate. And these pieces of wood basically are forming the walls, and so you want the wood that's being used here to be very, very straight. And so we have a 9-foot ceiling. So from the bottom of the floor here to the top is going to be 9 foot. And so these studs are cut just short of that because they're sitting on top of a wood here and they're going to have another piece of wood there. So these studs are not exactly 9 feet. And these guys know that, they call them just studs. So these guys are using some of the actual wood to hold up the other wood. What I tell them to do, and they already know how to do that, is you don't really have to tell your guys that, but they use any piece of wood that shows up that might be a little bit warped, that is not like a really good straight piece of wood to use on a wall. They'll use them as support to hold up the walls. So let me explain to you what these little pink foam things go. You see underneath there, this is a moisture barrier type situation here and allows it to have some breathing room. And so these things go underneath around the entire perimeter and the center portion of the firewall. So this stuff is called comfort seal. And the reason it comes in two different sizes, you see this one here on the left hand side is going to be for a 2x4 wall. So it's a 2x4. It's going to be for a 2x6. So there's a few places where we're going to be using 2x6 walls, and I'm going to show you those here in a second. So that comfort seal stuff, you have to order it, and it comes in the material takeoff, so that it's just part of the package that you get delivered. So we have a lot of wood here. Some of this stuff, the green treated wood, is the stuff that goes touching the slab itself. Let me show you guys a quick video. All right, so here we are, and again, we're and so what happens is they're beginning to frame up just the walls. This is the first phase here. Now, this wall here is going to be a 2x6 wall, because this is going to be the firewall. This is going to be the separation, right? And let me stop it here. So I wanted to show you this real quick, because you see this piece of wood here is a 2x6, and then this piece of wood is a 2x4. And that is why we have different widths of that comfort seal stuff to be able to accommodate for that. Again, these little metal rods here on the ground are basically, going to be to hold the structure down to the slab whenever we have high winds and stuff like that. It's part of the shear protection as well. So these guys, one of the first things that they do, if you look on the ground, you see these red lines. So the framers, before they actually start putting up the walls, they'll do these red lines. These are just chalk lines, and they'll put basically where the walls are going to be going, so that everybody's basically understanding, like, hey, we need a wall here. There's going to be a 2x4 wall or 2x4 wall here, and then in the utility room, let me back it up just a bit so you guys can see, because we do have a utility room. You see this drain that we have right here? That is going to be the drain for the washing machine. And the only reason I know that is because I've seen this plan. We've done it lots of times before. And so basically this particular wall on this drain is going to be also a 2x6 wall. And the reason we make that a 2x6 wall is because the vent for the dryer is a 4-inch vent. So if you have a 2x4 wall and you put in a 4-inch vent, you basically are eliminating any of the structural integrity of that 2x4, because you have to bore through the entire thing, right? It's a huge hole. But if it's a 2x6 wall, you have more room to bore a 4-inch hole into, and you have, an inch on either side for structural integrity. So these duplexes are actually going to have a good backyard for it, and the city would only allow us to do 2 units maximum. And the cables have been tensioned. I called them today. Actually, I emailed them and I told them, hey guys, I need you guys to come out and cut those cables and patch up the concrete. All right, guys, those are the updates that we have going on today. Remember, there's 3 stages to the framing. This is the first phase, which is basically just putting up the rooms, the walls, basically, the floor plan, if you will. That's going to be stage 1. Stage 2 is going to be dealing with all of the roof structure, right? So we're going to have ceiling joists that are coming across like this. We're going to have the roof rafters that are going up this way, so on and so forth, right? That's going to be stage number 2. And then stage number 3 is going to be when we start putting the plywood on the exterior of this, basically giving it more structural integrity. And at that section we put up the windows and stuff like that. So those are going to be the 3 phases that we do for the framing. Very, very simple. A lot of this stuff is going to be, the framers know how to do this stuff. And I'm just going to give you a few tips and tricks on just kind of what to look for when you're going out there to inspect your properties. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. Thanks so much. I will talk to you soon.